Welcome back, you guys. This is the Futbal Biz podcast. I'm Grayson. He's Hunter, and today we are going to go into the round one recap of the World Cup. And we saw a lot of games over this past week, and some results went the way we thought, others not so much. So let's get right into it. The first game was obviously Qatar against Ecuador. 2-0 for Ecuador. No real shocks there. I was fully expecting them to win. Enter Valencia absolutely showed up in that game. First scoring the penalty and then the header in the second half. I think the only real controversy in this game was that first goal that he
It's a
scored.
loud goal. A
Yeah,
little
that one.
strange.
The technology they're using, I get the way they're doing it. Technically, he was offside, but it still seemed a bit odd to me. I thought that Ecuador scored a good goal in that instance, but it didn't. In the end of the day, it didn't matter. They still went out with the result and went in.
Yeah,
We
I
expected.
got really nothing to add to that. I was pretty much went exactly how it was supposed to go.
Yeah, that game was pretty straightforward. The second game that was played was England versus Iran, and wow, uh, that that one did not go how I expected.
I definitely expected England to win, but listen,
I was not expecting
kind
6-2.
of kind of ran amok. That was definitely out of the script, I'd say.
Yeah, no, 6-2. I thought Iran was going to play a little better than that. Obviously, this is being recorded November 25th. So since then, Iran has actually gone on to beat Wales in a dramatic late fashion, kind of proving that Iran did have some quality. But I would say if you're the U.S., if you don't get a result today, you should be scared.
I think if they don't get a result today, I think it's almost
Yeah,
over. It's not completely over, but it's almost over.
yeah, they
Really got to
absolutely
get a
have to beat
result today.
Iran, and if they don't, then they're done. But
Yeah,
um, yeah, no, that game was quite shocking. I felt that England just, I mean, absolutely played their game. Mehdi Taremi obviously popped in with a couple goals for Iran, but um, it was not even close to enough for them. Um, but obviously they've since turned it around and have had a better result. So definitely interesting things in Group B there. Match three was Senegal against the Netherlands. It took the Dutch forever to score in that game, but in the end of the day, that man Cody Gakpo uh, came
did
up big.
exactly what
And
he said he was going to
frankly,
do.
Edward Mendy, what are you doing there?
I think, yeah, I don't think there's any disagreement for me with the result. I think yes, it took too long, but I think at the end of the day, we should have expected the Dutch to win that. I
Yeah,
feel like their first half performance was unbelievably underwhelming, and I don't think it really bodes well for the rest of the tournament. I feel like this group is it's kind of an easy group. I mean,
yeah.
besides Ecuador, I mean, it's not much. I think Senegal's out for sure.
Yeah, I mean Senegal obviously missing their best player in Sadio Mane, but I mean they played pretty well in this match for given the circumstances. Idrissa Gueye looked a bit lively. Koulibaly looked decent. Uh, and but Mendy, I mean, you gotta understand that. Just, I mean, if that guy was playing for Chelsea, I think he saves Gakpo's goal. I think he punches it out. I think his timing would be better.
I think he's just
Um,
not in form right now, really, and
he's not,
clearly
and I
it's
think
gotten
that
to him.
that really showed in the game against the Netherlands. He was a little better today, obviously, but still, it was not a great moment for him. The second one, I mean, there's not much he could have done with that one. It was a parry. I think any goalkeeper would have done probably something similar. And Davy Klaassen obviously comes up in the far post there. Um, and then USA Wales. So I think we can go into a bit of depth with this one.
Lots to say about
USA
it.
played phenomenal in the first half.
First half was a win in anyone's book, really. I mean, and even the pundits said it. I know the players can't hear that, but they said it time and time again. You can't let off the gas here. You
No,
have to play the second half exactly like you played the first half.
and that's exactly what they did. They let their foot off the gas. They allowed Wales to get back into the game. Dumb penalty by Walker Zimmerman. Clear, obvious penalty. Tripped up Bale, and Bale obviously, Bale's made for the big stage, and you expect him to convert that every time,
Yeah, but
which he did.
I
Matt
think
Turner even went the right way.
that really comes. Yeah, he almost had that, and props to him. I think he played amazing that day, and I think he'll be the factor in this next game up against England. But I think that comes down to a lack of like experience from the center back. He doesn't play in a top five European league like most of the rest of the U.S.
Yeah.
starting squad does.
I mean, to be fair to Zimmerman, he is probably an easily top five center back in MLS. He is a good player. It
Sure.
was just a bad mistake. I mean,
How
you
does that
can't.
translate into the experiences of people who have been
Yeah.
playing top tier for almost their whole careers?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Zimmerman, I mean he has been at the top level in MLS for a long time. It's just and he definitely deserved his place in the U.S. team, and arguably even the U.S. starting lineup. It was just a bad mistake and one that he'll be kicking
It's a
himself for.
very,
But
very bad
um,
mistake.
even that being said, the U.S. should have put away at least one or two more chances that they had.
Agreed.
And if they did, I mean, it would have been an easier game for them.
I
I
think,
think Wales is still the worst team in the group.
yeah,
After
we
today,
saw
I
that
think that
today. Yeah,
after today we saw Iran. Yeah, they got crushed by England, but um, obviously
that's
Wayne
England.
Hennessy got sent off for something stupid. But Iran have shown that they're a decent squad.
They have quality, and they never give up, which is what we've
No,
seen. Like they didn't
no,
give
and
up
their
when
goals
that
were scored
score
today in
near
the
them.
both in late stoppage time, like 90 plus 8 and
Yeah,
90 plus 11. It was insane.
yeah. Of course, there's a lot of added extra time now in this tournament, which is another talking point to go off on later.
Absolutely.
But in the game against England, everything in regulation. They did score two goals, one open play,
Yep.
one penalty. They have the passion. They're clearly not giving up, and I think they think in their minds they have a real chance to walk out with second place in this group. And I don't
And they
totally
very well
disagree with
could. I mean, they have guys that are playing well. Mehdi Taremi, who I talked about in the last episode, he is a very good player. A guy that doesn't really get talked about, but he plays for a top tier team in Portugal,
that.
the
Yes,
NFC Porto. And he'll definitely be a guy that I think can give the U.S. some problems. Especially that center back pairing. Um, but I think a big question with the U.S. game in Wales is why did Giovanni Reyna not at the bare minimum get subbed in?
just put them in. There's got to be something behind the scenes because otherwise, I can't think of any reason that you
Yeah,
wouldn't put him on. Maybe
exactly.
he
Like
has a
here's
bad
the thing: for
attitude.
game one, the save him strategy does not work. It just doesn't. Like I get Gio Reyna is injury prone. He absolutely is. The man is made of glass. But you're in a World Cup. You have 3 games to make an impact.
Yeah,
And you want one of your best players, if not, I would say Gio Reyna is arguably your number two after Pulisic. Maybe three if we're throwing in guys like maybe Musa, McKinney. There's some talented guys in this U.S. team. But the fact that Brendan Aronson and Gio Reyna did not get into the game, I mean, Aronson, I think they subbed in later, but Reyna not being in this game, instead favoring Jordan
yeah.
Morris, like, come on. Like,
Does he start today? I mean, I
he
think the
should.
lineup is
He
out
absolutely
now.
should.
I'll
Like
actually
obviously
double
you got to
check.
keep Tim Weah in there. I mean, he played really well against goal aside, he just played very well against Wales. I think he's undroppable. Josh Sargent, I mean, I don't think he did enough to impress me. I think that Reyna could probably start on the right, maybe throw Weah more in the center.
I'll tell you right now, they're not starting Reyna tonight.
That's insane.
Looking at the lineup right now, they're not starting Reyna.
Who's in instead of him?
Let's see. I'll just
Yeah.
go through the lineup again. Turner and net, of course. Dest, Zimmerman, Adams, Robinson, Musa, McKenney, Pulisic, Ream, Wright, and Weah.
Okay, so Haji Wright's getting the start.
Yeah,
I mean, he's having a decent season in Turkey. Sargent, yeah, I mean, kind of just to my point before we heard about the lineup. I don't think Sargent did enough for me. So I guess they're giving Wright the go ahead. Maybe they're planning on putting Reyna in the second half, depending on how the game is going. But still, I think Gio Reyna
no
absolutely
matter what
deserved to
happens,
start.
you have to play him at some point.
Yeah, he's
If
one
you're
of your best
saving him,
players.
save him for
Um,
fresh legs, sure, that makes sense. But you have to put him in.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, without him, I mean, the U.S. is going to be up against England today. It's going to be a really tough match. England, obviously, a team that have been out for blood, clearly. Moving on to Group C, and arguably the biggest shock, and will be the biggest shock of the whole tournament. There will not be a more shocking result unless Saudi Arabia goes on to win the World Cup. There will not be a bigger shock than Saudi Arabia beating Argentina 2-1.
I mean, this is probably just another example of like an Iran-esque team that has the passion and isn't giving up.
Absolutely, they do.
Whatever the manager said at halftime was clearly
Clearly effective.
electric. I mean, to be fair, although some were offsides, I feel like there were some really questionable calls that did not go Argentina's way.
No,
And
although
that's
I will say overall, the two that Lautaro Martinez put in the back of the net, both of those I think were pretty clear cut.
yeah.
The same with the one that Messi scored. I mean, yeah, I mean,
I
it,
think
it
it
was
was
one
really just
that
unlucky.
it was unlucky, but I think they were all. I think the calls were correct. Now, obviously, there's been some questionable officiating in this World Cup, but in this match in particular, I actually think that they did get it right. The penalty was a clear-cut penalty.
Mm.
Um, you know, uh, it was a foul, and it it just doesn't bode well for Argentina. If Argentina loses, they're done.
I
One
don't
of the
think,
favorites for this tournament. Losing to
yeah,
who I thought was going to be one of the worst teams in the tournament.
I
Um,
think a lot of people were
they could
behind
be
it.
finished.
I don't think this game is really going to mean too much in the grand scheme of things. I think all credit to Saudi Arabia, but this would never happen again. I don't think.
I
Um,
guess we'll see. Maybe I said France weren't going to make it out of their group. I feel like one big team always chokes in the World Cup. Obviously 2014, 2018, it was Spain and Germany respectively, but and then 2010 Italy. I feel like the
happened.
one big team always just squanders it in the big moment, and maybe that team is Argentina. Maybe there's too much hype surrounding them. It's hard to say.
I think there's
And
too much hype around this loss right now. I mean, we'll see in maybe a day or two. I think it's
yeah,
tomorrow.
but
Um,
I do think Mexico and Poland could give them some trouble. It's hard to say. Both of them are strong, decently strong teams.
mm,
I don't think Mexico's what they were, but I still think there's enough quality in there to
put up
give
a fight.
Argentina some problems.
And
Um,
goddamn, fucking Ochoa, he is just. Why is he the way he is?
it's hard to say.
Why is
Lewandowski
he the
got
way he
absolutely
is?
stoned by him.
Lewandowski is so clinical from the penalty spot. We've seen time and time again. He's so
Yep,
rarely
that was his
misses
first penalty miss for
a good
Poland.
save. Yeah,
So
and of course it comes up against Ochoa, which is just honestly it's ridiculous. I
yeah,
don't know what they're feeding that man, but
yeah,
it's insane. And
yeah,
I
for
guess it's
sure. I
really
mean, other
something you
than that,
can't.
with this game, other than that, to be fair, it was a pretty boring game.
It was.
Denmark Tunisia, which also ended 0-0, had some more intensity to it. Denmark had a good few chances. Tunisia just stayed very disciplined defensively, and they I think are a force to be reckoned with. France looked really good against Australia, but I think Tunisia and Denmark are both teams that are definitely playing for it, and we'll see.
They
But
totally can.
yeah, no. As for
Up to
Mexico,
Australia for scoring that first goal. That took me by surprise, but I think
yeah,
what was
I
supposed to
honestly,
happen ended up happening in the end.
when Australia scored that goal, I felt like $1,000,000. I was like, this looks great for me right now because I said France weren't going to make it out of this group. I did say they'd beat Australia, but I said they weren't going to make it out of this group.
Yeah,
Now they obviously turned it around. Olivier Giroud scoring twice was huge for them.
he
Uh,
tied the record, I believe. Isn't that what
he
that was?
did one more goal and he breaks Thierry Henry's record for a striker that frankly is completely slept on. No one talks about Olivier Giroud
Definitely
the
one
way
of the
they should.
most underrated,
Yeah,
overslept.
I mean, come on, the guy's won everything. He won the World Cup. He won the Champions League with Chelsea. He obviously didn't win the Premier League, but I mean, that's
It's
it is what it is. But
good.
he goes to Italy. He wins Serie A. Being the main guy with Ibrahimovic being out. I mean, Giroud is severely slept on, him, and
Yeah,
and he's a guy that if France make it out of their group, comfortably. He'll be one of the main reasons why, stepping up in the absence of Benzema, and then all of the other players that France is missing, such as Nkunku, and then their midfield.
How hurt are France now that they lost Lucas Hernandez for the tournament?
To be fair with Hernandez, his brother is thankfully in the same exact position as him, and
So strange.
Theo might even be better than Lucas. So it hurts Bayern Munich, I think, a lot more than it hurts France because he did tear his ACL,
Yeah,
so he's done for the season. Um,
was that official? Because I
yeah, I
know they
believe
just
so.
operated the other day. I don't. They didn't say what it was where I looked.
I saw somewhere that it was his ACL. Let me confirm that right now.
I
Um,
think he's much better at center back, which is where he usually plays.
yes, according to ESPN, he ruptured his ACL, so he is very much done for at least 6 months.
I hate
Um,
to see it. I hate to
yeah,
see it.
no, Bayern luckily still have depth in that position. I mean,
Yeah, but he is
Upamecano
really he's
um,
such a star player.
is a yeah, he's a phenomenal center back. So I mean, he'll be fine. Obviously, you lost Sula in the offseason, but um, yeah, I mean, it definitely hurts, but Pavard can play center back
He
if he
prefers
has
center
to.
back.
So there's guys there for Bayern Munich, but yeah, Argentina obviously getting shocked was huge, and we'll see how they fare against Poland and Mexico. I think Poland and Mexico won't be as scared of them now, and for good reason. I mean, if you lose to
I think
Saudi
they should be more
Arabia, then
scared of Saudi Arabia now.
it
Really.
quite possible. I think it really sends a message to Mexico and Poland that so we're Saudi Arabia, we're not to be messed with. Um, and yeah, I mean, we'll see how that group turns out. Uh, I guess we'll move on here to Group F. So we got Morocco tying Croatia. Now that is a great result for both Belgium and Canada. Um, obviously going into this one, I thought Croatia would maybe get the edge in this one. Given their experience and quality of players, but Morocco, held their own and played a decent match. No, that one was early, so I unfortunately was still sleeping when it was on, but woke up to that result and I was quite happy to
Yeah.
see that it was 0-0.
Looked at the highlights. I can't really complain too much about what transpired in the game. I think it's probably a fair result, so I'm not going to add too much to that.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic result for the other two teams in the group. And moving on to the match that was played after that one, it was Japan against Germany, and
Oh,
this one, while surprising, to me is much less surprising than Saudi Arabia. Japan at least have some known entities that are quality.
I think the first half, Germany showed their class, and they had so many more chances that they missed out on. And that's just something you really can't do.
They did.
Uh,
Obviously, Gundogan scoring that penalty was big, but then he
it
also
was
hit the
great.
post.
He did a lot of things not so great as he did the penalty, which was great. I think Musiala still looked amazing in that game,
He did.
as I
He
did
almost had
in the
that
rest.
solo run
Yeah,
in where if he scored that, if not for another goal, which we'll talk about later, I think he would have had a chance for goal of the tournament. I do think uh, that solo run where he beat like three or four guys on the
yeah.
dribble would have been close to, if not goal of the season.
As much as
Um,
it hurts, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I mean, you really don't want to lose that, but when in comparison to the Spain game, yes, Spain won 7-0 against Costa Rica, but let me repeat that sentence. Spain won 7-0 against Costa Rica.
yeah,
How
no,
much does that
exactly.
actually
Yeah,
translate?
no, I mean, Costa Rica, I mean, I said Saudi Arabia would be the worst team in the tournament. I think Costa Rica yesterday proved that it's indeed them. I felt really bad for Keylor Navas.
Mhm. Yeah,
He's obviously a phenomenal goalkeeper. He's not number one at PSG anymore. He was etched out by Donnarumma, and I feel like Navas is just he's had uh, that kind of lack of luck in his career where he has been edged out a few times, but he holds his own. He won his Champions Leagues and had that shocking run in 2014 where Costa Rica shocked everybody,
yeah.
making the quarterfinals, almost making the semifinals. If it wasn't for penalties. But yeah, they did not hold their own in this match. Spain absolutely trampled
Spain
them.
looked great. I'll give them that, but again, I don't know if that'll translate. I don't even think that can translate against Japan really. And
I don't think so.
All credit to Japan. Their keeper made some amazing saves. I
He
think he
did.
won man of the match that game, actually.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this next game, Germany versus Spain, obviously it will have heavy implications on the rest of the group.
Yeah. No,
Germany,
it will, because if Germany loses that, then they're out. Japan
yeah,
will get second because or I mean, depending on how Costa Rica do, I doubt they're going to do anything.
I'm assuming
Um,
they'll beat Costa Rica.
yeah, but if Japan loses, Japan beats them on head to head. So Japan would get second. They can get second on 3 points, depending on how Costa Rica do. But I think Japan will win that game, and it's possible that they get second. Germany might lose in this group.
They could. It's
Um,
very possible, and it's really sad. But I mean,
yeah, I mean, I had them winning the tournament, so that would be very bad for my bracket if if they do get
crazier
knocked
things
out.
have happened though. I can't. I just can't say, oh well, it's this team. After seeing all these matches on match day one, there's no, it's that team. They're all good in their own right. They're all capable of pulling out surprises. So honestly, I can't say that any team is safe in this tournament right now.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But yeah, moving on to the final match of that day, the final match in Group F, Canada against Belgium. Uh, Canada absolutely should have won this game, and
I
I'm not
agree.
even just saying that because I'm Canadian and that's my team. They outplayed Belgium in basically every facet in the first half. They really did.
It
Now
actually, I don't
Davies
think it
missing
was
that
even close.
penalty. Yeah, Davies missing that penalty was massive. If he scored that, the game would have been completely different. And I think Canada would have kept their tempo up and maybe scored a second. But yeah, Belgium did not play well in this match, and they frankly didn't deserve the win. Bashuai had a well taken goal, obviously against the run of play,
Credit to
but
him. That was a good goal.
it was a great goal. He took it well and threw it right over Milan Borjan. But Kamal Miller, Canada's center back, he is going to probably move to Europe. I the guy stood on his head, playing center back for Canada. He timed his challenges so well, stopped a ton of attacks from Belgium, and his passing was good too. And then obviously Canada's main guys all played decently well. Davies wasn't bad despite the penalty miss. Tejan Buchanan played really well, threw in some nice crosses. Kyle Larin was wasteful after getting subbed on in the second half.
I
Like,
don't think this game really portrayed, or I don't think the result really portrayed what we actually saw out
it
there.
didn't.
I think Canada will probably cruise past both Croatia and Morocco playing that way. Because
I it, it
as it is, Belgium is the strongest team
They
in the
still
group.
are, yes. Um,
If you could play like that against them, I feel pretty confident in them going
yeah.
up against Croatia and Morocco to
To
get
be fair, Canada's
4 or
coach
6 points.
did say a questionable comment after the game, which might light a fire in Croatia's belly. He did say we're ready to f
Solids.
up Croatia.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there, but I do think that Canada's high tempo and high pace, if they're able to keep that up against Croatia on Sunday, I see no reason why they don't win that match. Croatia, yeah, they're a very quality team, but their age is potentially going to show against a team like Canada. Um, Alfonso Davies is going to have Dejan Lovren on roller skates. Like, he just is.
Can't say anything about it. It's the truth.
Yeah, and I think that as a Canadian, I have a lot of hope that we can make it out of this group because we played really well against Belgium. We took it to the number 2 team in the world. I mean, there's nothing to really say extra there. I was really proud despite the loss at how we played, and there's a lot of hope from this nation that I really think that we can qualify for the knockout stage. Now, obviously, if we do get second and Spain get first, that would be awful, but um, we would have to play them. But it's
Oh,
okay.
okay. Thinking for a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't really know what to think of the Spain team yet. I obviously they're strong, and I'm not going to discredit them, but they
yeah.
may have very well come up against the worst team in the
The worst
tournament.
team in the tournament
Yeah,
is
we're gonna have to
quite
see how they
possible.
play on Sunday.
Yeah. Now we're moving into our final group of games in round one, which was yesterday. or Thursday, Thanksgiving for all of our U.S. based audience. Um, the first match was Switzerland against Cameroon. Braille Mbolo scores the lone goal. No real shocks there. I think Switzerland were definitely the
Yeah,
stronger team.
can't say too much about that. I don't really disagree. Probably
Yeah,
a little too, even though it was a goal, it was probably a little too boring for my taste, as in the match overall.
yeah. Once again, I was sleeping while that match happened, but I mean, Mbolo, I did see the highlights. Mbolo not celebrating, classy gesture, respecting that he was born in Cameroon and has respect for his roots. But yeah, he's a great player and he scored a great goal against them. Uruguay, South Korea. This one was a
I
bit more surprising.
surprised. Yeah, I really thought Uruguay was strong enough to take this like cake. I really thought it wasn't going to be a challenge, but I was proven wrong. I don't think this really means too much for them in terms of going forward. I think they'll still get out of the group, but
I think they will, but I do
they still
believe
have a
that
tough.
Portugal does look better.
Yeah,
A little weak defensively. I think that the Uruguay Portugal game could very well also end like a 3-2. Um, in favor of I have Portugal beating them, but uh, Uruguay, yeah, they didn't look great against South Korea, who they frankly probably should have beat. Outside of Hunmin's son, South Korea's entire back line has the name of Kim.
that was hilarious. I've seen the memes. The commentators are having a rough day.
Yeah.
Uh, but they performed. They did what they had to do for the most part. I mean, they're not in last place, so that's a
Yeah,
start.
I mean, Kim played well. As for which one, we'll never know.
Kim played well, and
I don't
Wang
even
played
know,
well as
but
well.
they all of the Kims, all five of them, goalkeeper and defenders, all played really well. Like I don't even think that the name Smith is that common in the U.S. and it's the most common name in the U.S.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exactly what that would be like.
but yeah, the fact that all of those guys' names are Kim is just it's absolutely funny. And there's
And it's just they're all on defense. It's like, all right,
yeah, the fact that they all play in the same, relative same position, and then the goalkeeper, even his name is Kim too. Maybe the South Korea coach is just trying to prank us or something, but I don't know. But yeah, no, fair play to South Korea for stopping a very good team in a match and maybe giving themselves some hope for the future. Now moving on to the other game that was played in Group H, Portugal against Ghana. Um, the
I was
result,
surprised at how close it was.
yeah, Ghana played really well. They did. They definitely had a good shout for even winning this match. I mean, when obviously Ronaldo scores penalties, that's what he does. That goal was not really surprising. Um, as he's done time and time again. But when Andre Ayew scored the equalizer, one, I forgot he existed because he has not played in a top league in 3 or 4 years.
It was nice to see though.
Obviously his brother Jordan is still playing for Crystal Palace, but I forgot Andre was a thing. And then he scores, and I'm like, oh yeah, Andre Ayew plays for Ghana. Um,
Portugal kind of
so
ran a route a little bit after that with Zhao and
yeah,
Leao. Both
Joao
great goals.
Felix was by and far one of the best players for Portugal. I think Bruno Fernandes deserved man of the match because he had 2 assists, but
Yeah,
uh,
he was unrecognized in that game, I
he
think.
was, and he frankly played really
I think
well.
they kind of gave the goal to Ronaldo or the man of the match to Ronaldo just because it's
That's the
Ronaldo.
name recognition, and actually going back to the Canada match,
The
when
Kevin De
Kevin De
Bruyne
Bruyne
got that.
won the award, he was like, I don't know why I won this because I played awful. Um, Frankly, if I was giving it to somebody from Belgium, I probably would have given it to Michi Batshuayi just for getting the goal.
Yeah, or at
And
least the sister or something.
yeah, or Courtois for absolutely
Saving the
saving the
penalty.
penalty, and he had a couple other massive plays in that game too. And I think that yeah, Ronaldo's the same thing. Obviously I'm a Ronaldo fan, but he didn't deserve man of the match. I think if you're giving it to somebody, it should have been either Bruno Fernandes or Joao Felix. I think they both outplayed him. Ronaldo scored a penalty, and those guys, were the lively bunch of the
Yeah,
of the group.
I
Um,
think Leao needs to start. Truthfully,
Oh, I'm surprised he didn't. I don't know why he didn't.
and again, it
He's
might just be a thing of pulling on fresh legs, but he came on pretty late actually.
He did, but he still was on long enough to make an impact. He scored a great
Yeah.
curling goal.
So they need to do something about that.
Yeah, I think if you're Portugal, if I think you do start Ronaldo, I think you have to just
Yeah.
because of
He's the
his
leader
ego.
of the
But
team. Everyone respects him there, at least to my knowledge, for the most part.
yeah, I think what they should do is just throw Leao on the left, put Felix on the right, drop Bernardo Silva a little deeper into the midfield, put him with Bruno, and then throw someone like Carvalho or Danilo Pereira as a defensive midfielder to kind of hold some stability, or even someone like Ruben Neves, who I think would be decent. Um, they had a great squad in there, of course, but I think that type of formation would definitely uh, give them everything that they need. Instead, they played Bruno at right wing, which I found kind of weird, but um, it ended up working out because he did have the 2 assists. But I think having him and Bernardo as a central midfield pairing absolutely complements their
Stop.
attackers.
You need
Um,
both of them in there, and I mean, yeah, I can't say much about that. Do
yeah, I
a
mean
little
the
bit
back
of
four.
a keeper lapse in judgment at the end of the game. I don't know if you saw that.
To be honest, I'm surprised Diego Costa is starting over the other two in the team. Now, obviously, Jose Sa is plays for Wolves, and they've not been good this year, but I still think he's a quality keeper. And Rui Patricio has been their guy, for the last 10 years. I'm surprised he didn't start, because yeah, Diego Costa almost cost them the game and made Ronaldo have one of the funniest faces I've ever seen
That
on the
he
sideline. He
was
was like
ripping him at
completely
the end.
shocked.
I saw them walking together after the result, and I felt kind of bad because he was really ripping into him.
Well, I mean, to be fair to Ronaldo in that instance, Diogo Costa did almost cost them the game.
Absolutely.
So fair play there. Yeah, but anyways, the last match that was played yesterday was Brazil against Serbia. As for the result, no real surprises there. The biggest thing for me was I don't understand why Dusan Vlahovic was not in that team
Yeah,
at the start. Obviously, Mitrovic is their guy. He's their top goal scorer, but
you gotta play him.
Mitrovic he had a huge injury layoff. He was out for 3 weeks prior to the World Cup. So I don't really understand. I think Vlahovic has done enough to be
Yeah,
a starter for Serbia because he, in his own right, is a quality player. Um, but yeah, I'm surprised Mitrovic got the start over him.
I think we saw the goal of the tournament clearly so
Oh,
far.
obvious. I mean,
That was one of the
absolutely.
most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Yeah, the
I'm not a
flick,
big
the flick
Richarlison
up, and then
fan.
the scissor kick from Richarlison it was
Listen, I'm
awesome.
not a big Richarlison fan, but that was one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a
Yeah,
long time.
me neither. I mean, he's been a useless, bin bag for Tottenham. He hasn't done anything for them since having that huge
It's
switch
just
from Everton.
yeah.
And then when he got the start, I was like, really? They're using Richarlison over
I
Gabriel
really
Jesus?
thought
Like,
Gabriel Jesus should have been in there,
yeah.
but
But in the end of
I
the
guess he
day, I
showed
think
us why.
Richarlison proved that he can at least perform for Brazil.
Yeah, he showed us
With
for sure.
because he also scored the other goal. It was a well
Yeah,
timed run in after a
good
shot.
positioning. Yeah, so
Um,
I'm not gonna knock him. He deserves that. He deserves to start
Oh,
next week for
absolutely. I
sure.
mean, he definitely did enough in that game to say that I can be the guy. Neymar's injury is potentially a huge blow, though.
I've
Um,
read up on that. They said that he would be good for the next round. And honestly, let's
yeah,
just say that's true. I think they'll be fine. I don't think they need
there's
him
yeah,
in this
th-
group.
there's definitely still enough quality in there. I think for
Yeah,
Neymar, his absence to not be felt too much. They're gonna want him back for the knockout stages though because
of course.
he is their guy.
I
Um,
think they should rest him. I also think they played him at the wrong position yesterday.
um,
They're not getting the most out of him, in my opinion. But
it's tough because you have him and Vinicius because if you Neymar's normal position is
yeah,
obviously left wing, but I think playing Neymar at cam made more sense than putting Vinicius at cam because I think you have to play both of them. And then you obviously want, I think Richarlison is better centrally as a striker just because of his frame and pace. Um, I think Neymar at cam it's while it's not his natural position, I do think it made sense.
I
Just
think
just
there's just
because of who else they have.
too many mouths to feed on Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much depth in that team. Obviously, I think Casemiro Paqueta, I think, was a great defensive midfield pairing. Now Paqueta obviously can play a little farther forward up the pitch, but he did play well. The one guy that was in Brazil's team where I was a little confused was Rafinha. Um, I don't think
Yeah,
he's not.
I don't think
I
he
think
started with him.
Rafinha. There's obviously some skill there, and he's done well. He did well for Leeds, but he hasn't done much for Barcelona. I thought somebody like either Antony or Rodrigo potentially deserved it over him.
Yeah, but
Um,
they got subbed on later. Well, and I think it might just be
yeah.
like shout out to the fact that they have so much depth. But I think
Oh,
one of
absolutely.
them is coming on the start now that Neymar is out. So it just depends on who it is.
Yeah, it's a good it leads to a good question of who do you think that they'll play, in that attacking role instead of a guy of Neymar. Personally, what I think they might do is they'll throw in somebody like Bruno Guimaraes as a defensive pairing with Casemiro,
Okay,
and maybe
I agree.
push Paqueta a little farther forward because like he can play cam. I think that would potentially make sense. Or on the contrary, you could put somebody like Martinelli in there potentially, um, obviously he's a little more left wing, but he can play with both feet, and I think he could also play that role.
Again, so much depth. I'm not really worried for their group stage endeavors. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think they definitely have enough quality to beat. I think they'll coast over Cameroon. And Switzerland might give them some trouble. They haven't in the past.
Serbia gave
Um,
Brazil trouble. I'm not gonna say they didn't. The
they
goalkeeper
did.
was
Serbia played
fantastic,
very physical.
as we saw.
Especially that left back on Serbia. I can't remember his name. The bald guy, but he's only 21 and he looks like he's 40. That guy.
It
Uh,
looked like Vidic out there.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think they performed well.
I'm getting his name now. Pavlovic. That he was. I mean, dishing it out to these guys, and then also Milinkovic also played a great game. As at center back. There were definitely some guys in Serbia. Both central midfielders on Serbia picked up yellow cards.
The keeper
Um,
did very well, and I'm up
yes,
against anyone but Brazil. I think that'll mean much more coming up against Cameroon and Switzerland.
yeah,
I'm
I think
not writing
this.
them off yet out of this group.
Yeah, Serbia Switzerland is going to be a big match. Two teams that are gonna duke it out. I think in the end of the day, I think Switzerland will probably get the win, but
Maybe,
Serbia's attacking talent cannot be slept on. Whether it
especially
be
if they bring on Vlahovic. I
yeah,
think
Vlahovic and Filip Kostic also didn't play, so like bring those guys on. Play an attacking too with Vlahovic and Mitrovic. You got two guys you can throw balls into the box all day. Get it to the wide positions with Tadic and Kostic. Have them just whip balls in for those guys all day because they will score.
yeah,
You know, feed each of them 10 chances a game, and I mean, come on, you got to think they'll score at least one or two. Um,
yeah. I'm
and then
not
they're
too worried
also
yet.
both capable of playing on the ground with their feet, Vlahovic especially. So I do think that Serbia's formation might change, and then obviously play Milinkovic Savage behind them.
I think
Um,
what we saw at the end of the game, I don't know if they ended up registering one, but for most of the second half, going into the second half, they did not have a shot
yeah,
on
Brazil I
targets.
think figured them out.
They're going to need to either change the formation or bring on Vlahovic or
Yeah,
some other attacker because, yes, it worked for the first half, but you need to actually try and score.
yeah, you got to utilize your attacking talent, and so Serbia definitely has a lot. And I think that if they can utilize that, they will easily, finish that mold. And then obviously we just talking about round one, but going into a little bit of round two as well, just the matches from today. I think Iran beating Wales definitely, as I kind of mentioned earlier, proves that the U.S. should be on their heels, especially if
Yeah.
they lose to England.
Uh-huh.
And the match that we'll say if it's called football or soccer, that match.
It's
Personally,
the
I think
same.
I obviously grew up calling it soccer, but I think having a better worldview, it's football. We named our podcast Futbal Biz for a reason.
Yeah, and I don't
Um,
think I think the story behind it is great. It's funny that their meaning is significant, but I think at the end of the day, you're gonna realize quick that this is England, and
This
they
is
are
England's
in
match.
prime form.
It really should be.
So yeah, it
Um,
would be hilarious. I would love it if the U.S. won or even drew, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
yeah, I don't see it either. I think Qatar is going to
They
go
got
0 and
officially
3.
eliminated, actually.
Yeah, I think that they're out, but also I think they have no chance at qualifying.
First host
First
nation
is
to
up
get
for grabs.
eliminated. First host nation to get eliminated from
Yeah, and that's absolutely embarrassing. Even Russia did better than them.
Russia did well that World Cup,
Yeah,
really,
they
to
did.
be
They beat
fair.
Spain. Big result for them. But
I
yeah,
don't
I
think there's
mean,
too much going for Senegal. Honestly, I think they
I
get the benefit of the matchup there.
I think Ecuador is going to etch out Senegal. I really do. I mean,
I
they
do
played
too.
really well today. Valencia obviously got carted off, but I think he'll be back. The guy's an absolute warrior. Unless there's a serious injury there, I don't see why he doesn't come back.
But
Um,
even so, I think they'll be fine, really.
yeah, I mean Ecuador's played phenomenal football in both of the matches they played. I mean they outplayed the Dutch for multiple minutes in this game. They really did.
The
They
Dutch
really took it
are
to them.
not like you can totally beat the Netherlands, and it's not going to be a surprise. I think they probably end up winning this group. Uh,
They should because their
even
final
this,
match is against
yeah,
Qatar, so
they'll
they
beat
should end on
Qatar.
7 points here.
It's just going to
Um,
come down to goal difference, I think, because I think Ecuador has the edge over Senegal slightly.
I would
Uh,
say they do too because if
and
they get a draw, then they're second. But I think Ecuador has a very good chance at beating Senegal. Which if they do, they could potentially top this group. So we'll see what happens there. Um, yeah, and then obviously England, US later today, and then round two. We will get back to you guys next week. I think that'll do it for us. It was a great episode. There was a lot to talk about with the World Cup. It's interesting to see how things unfold. The first team has been officially eliminated in Qatar. So that's a big thing. No team is qualified yet for the round of 16, but we will see what happens. Until next time, I am Grayson Mortimer,
Hunter Boyven.
and we will see you next time.